This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Hello and welcome into another edition of Three Ma. I am John Kurtz, joined by Derek Young and Cole Manbeck here on the show. We're going to talk some spring football, I guess, if you still consider it spring here in May. It feels like almost a blend of spring and summer football, but we got a little caught up with all the basketball recruiting, didn't finish our position previews, so we're doing the defensive line today. That's actually been something K-State's revamped through the transfer portal, kind of, with the signee that they had back a couple of months ago. It's good news for K-State at defensive tackle, and there's a lot of young talent at defensive end that looks very, very promising. So we'll break it all down here on the show, and if that talent all hits the defensive end room, you are going to be drinking a ton of Ben Holiday Bottled in Bond bourbon in celebration this fall, as well as 360 vodka from our friends at Holiday Distillery. Great K-State folks who support us here on the show, so make sure you support them. If you are in any way a bourbon guy or gal, make sure that you get the Ben Holiday Bottled in Bond bourbon. All right, defensive line, boys. I feel like we should start with defensive ends. They're a little bit sexier by nature, the pass rushers, and frankly on this team with what K-State has lined up coming back, they are a bit sexier as well. You have a nice blend of a couple of veterans who opted to come back, that it was a little bit up in the air as to whether or not they were going to come back at one point in time, and Brendan Mott and Cody Stufflebean. But then you've got the young guns like Jordan Allen, Chidi Obiizer, like names that K-State fans have been. Toby Osunsami, really looking forward to seeing play at defensive end and have a lot of upside and athleticism potential there. So I would say this is one of the more enticing, like, long-term position groups on the team. DY, is that fair?
It's absolutely fair. And long-term's probably the best way to look at it, because I still wonder how much of a splash they can make like this year, right? Because a lot of these kind of seem like players that are just scratching the surface of their potential. Some we haven't even seen yet. So it's kind of like the blind faith argument here, and you hope that they're at least far enough along to be still very, very productive this season, and not just, a little wet behind the ears like, for example, Austin Romaine was a year ago at linebacker. You hope it's not like just getting your feet wet, so to speak, because Chidi Obiizer hasn't played a lot of college football. Jordan Allen, I don't think has played any college football, right? Ryan Davis hasn't played any college football. Travis Bates hasn't played any FBS college football. Toby Osunsami has played very little college football, and some of it was at linebacker. So it's a little bit of a blind faith thing, and you hope that it's just not a bunch of guys scratching the surface of their potential and needing a year of development, and this is kind of that wash year. But we'll see. The way that they glow about these guys, though, it would be hard for me to see them at least not meet a certain standard of production, because I haven't seen a full roster or a full coaching staff rave about one position group like they are with this one in a long, long time.
Interesting dynamic here, because you lose Khalid Duke, who had 6 sacks to lead the team last year. But if you remember, it looked like Duke was going to have a really strong season early on. I think he had 3 in the non-con, 3 sacks, and then kind of had a slow finish to the season. And K-State didn't generate a ton of pass rush from his defensive ends last year. And Nate Matlack also moves on. He transfers to Pittsburgh. He had 4 sacks last year. Brendan Mott had 1. Javon Banks had 2. We know Banks is gone, so you count those 2. You're talking about 12 sacks. Now, Banks lined up at D-tackle much of last year as well as an undersized guy. He's in the transfer portal as well. So 12 sacks gone. All that's returning in terms of sacks created is Chidi Obiizer, who has a ton of upside with a half a sack last year as a true freshman. Cody Stufflebean surprisingly returned to Kansas State after we had thought he was going to move on with his football career. He had 2 sacks last year, felt like he was coming on, and then Toby, as you guys mentioned, had 1. So really 3.5 sacks in terms of proven production, returning at defensive end, but they brought in a lot of new guys as well, and a lot of guys that have redshirted and now are going to take that next step, you hope. It certainly feels like the ceiling for this group is significantly higher than what it was in last year's group. There's a lot of upside here when you think about a Jordan Allen, who was a 4-star recruit and had a ton of Power 5 offers, including Oklahoma and Tennessee, trying to lure him to their campuses. So he redshirted last year. And then Cheedy, I think, was a guy that we all expected to probably redshirt and maybe eventually pack on some weight and move to D tackle. And he just came in ready to play from day one. It was a monster in terms of his size and just has a ton of upside and a really bright future. So I think you feel pretty good about this group.
For clarity, Cheedy did still redshirt. So
That's right. I forgot. Yeah.
So all of him, Ryan Davis and Jordan Allen, are redshirt freshmen. I'm really excited about this group. The only thing I would pump the brakes on is still, like, and I kind of got into it, kind of like the offensive skill position players like a Jace Brown, you know, some of the offensive linemen they're going to play this year, Garrett Oakley, and even Avery Johnson and Dalton Edwards, because they'll be back for 2025, is like, you know, a lot of the splashier and flashier names make us excited for this year, but this is a program probably more poised to be at its best in 2025 rather than 2024.
Yes. And I thought maybe you would go to as well. Like, I mean, don't sleep on like Brendan Mott, who's been a pretty productive player during his time at K-State and opted to come back, which was really big because there was a moment in the offseason there when, you know, the Matlack news had happened and you started thinking like, man, they may be pretty thin all of a sudden at defensive end. That was an important move to be able to get Mott back and Stufflebean as well. That's right. You were thinking Stufflebean's gone, potentially Mott's gone, Matlack had transferred. There was some worry there that you were going to have to be throwing too much on the young guys, but that is not how things actually came to pass. And then K-State threw in Travis Bates, who DY brought up just briefly there, but Phil Steele pegged him as a freshman All-American at Austin Peay last year. He was a fairly sought-after transfer that K-State was able to add at defensive end. That can give you a little bit more quality depth as well, because as you said, he hasn't done it at this level, at the Power 5 level, but he has played a very good college football season. He has that under his belt, and he drew the attention of plenty of Power 5 schools with that. So where do you feel like DY Travis Bates figures into all this? As a guy who is still pretty young, is just a freshman last year and now a sophomore, but had a really nice debut season at a lower level.
Yeah, you're probably rolling the dice just because of how good he was in his first year, even at an FCS school, that you might have hit a home run also with Travis Bates. And I think it's fair to consider that an option. And that's why he was heavily pursued by Kansas State, but not only K-State, but other programs at the Power 4 level as well. It's hard to know what they're going to get out of him because, like, you know, we haven't really seen him play college football up close in person at all. And he played at the FCS level. What I can tell you is that they are very, very excited about him as well. And just in talking to him and in talking to others, great fit. I mean, it'll be a guy that comes in and busts his ass so much you can't keep him off the field.
Yeah, I mean, he was a guy, DY, I remember when he was getting ready to take his visit, that they wanted to keep under the radar and not let it out that he was going to be in Manhattan as they were trying to sneak him in. They thought he would be pretty sought after. So, yeah, I think he's certainly going to be a big piece, 6'3", nearly 265 pounds. The other guy I will mention that we brought up at a high level is Toby Osunsami, just because DY, I mean, I think you've heard from spring ball that he was one of the standouts at defensive end, right?
Well, yeah, I think I asked Coach Connor Riley, like, in a press conference, you know, like, who's the guy on the defensive side of the balls, but a pain in your ass. And I think Toby Osunsami was like the first guy he mentioned, which kind of caught me, you know, off guard. Not someone I expected. Look, he might just turn into an excellent defensive end. I'm not going to sell him short, but, you know, if you ask me to kind of project his career, I still think he's more maybe just a specialist pass rusher and not necessarily a 3-down player.
Well, I just wonder if he could become that Khalid Duke type player eventually in his career. And this year, you know, at the very least, give him that pass rush and third down and long situations, obvious passing situations. You know, he's another guy, only a sophomore. So as we talk about these guys, you got 3 redshirt freshmen in Davis, Jordan Allen, and Cheedy. Then you got Toby, who's a sophomore. So a ton of youth.
Travis Bates is a sophomore.
Yeah, Travis Bates, too, a sophomore. So just a ton of upside here with this group, and hopefully you can get a couple of them to really play well this year. If you do, you're in a pretty good situation. Cody Stufflebean came on at the end of last season as well. I was bummed when I thought he was going to move on because it felt like Cody Stufflebean was starting to flash. He's a guy also that, you know, in a pinch, they have slid down to nose tackle on occasion. And
I don't have they done that yet? I think they might this year. I also think we're going to see some different things done with the defensive line, right? In terms of how they align and what they look like schematically. I don't know if Stufflebean's done this already. Maybe he has. But he is like, I'm often told he's pound for pound the strongest player on the team. So it would not surprise me to see him slide inside and still hold up.
Well, if Toby Osunsanmi is going to be just a pass rush specialist, I think as we're talking about this year, at least, and probably long term, wouldn't that be fine based on how much we feel talent-wise there is in the room, other guys there are there? You can just throw him in and say, we saw it. Is it the Troy game last year where he clobbered somebody late in the game, just bull rushed somebody, ran someone over and got into the quarterback and had a strip sack? Toby can be a beast if you just tell him, hey man, go get the quarterback. I feel like they've got room for a guy to do that, and I'd be A-okay with that being the role.
It's not a bad thing, and it's probably another way of keeping all these guys happy. It's a lot of dudes to feed, a lot of mouths to feed.
Well, that gets back to the change in defensive front or some tweaks that they might make, DY and John, because I think they've talked about maybe creating some situations for more pass rush, right? So maybe it's adding a guy as a fourth down lineman or stand-up edge, like a Toby with 3 down linemen, something to create and allow these guys to generate more pressure. I think they're looking to make some tweaks there. Look, Brendan Mott announced live on 3-Mall along with Austin Moore that he was making his return this year, and Brendan Mott's a guy that we know is capable. He only had 1 sack last year, but he had 6.5 sacks the year before. So we know he is capable, and maybe with some more help alongside him, he can get it going again this year. We know he also said on 3-Mall that he wanted to get his weight up, get a little stronger, get above 250, closer to 260. So we'll see if he's able to do that. He's listed at 240 on the roster right now, but I don't think that's been updated. So get a little bigger. I just think they're more physical. They're longer at defensive end, especially when you think about a guy like Chitty, who's 6'6", 270 pounds. These guys have the body type of what you're really looking for in a 3-down defensive end front.
Yeah, again, we just mentioned that most of these guys are freshmen and sophomores, besides Mott, who's a super senior. I mentioned those guys on the offensive side of the ball. There's going to be a tall task of probably keeping everybody happy and then retaining them after the season. And Curry, Sexton, and Wildcat and IL will probably be pretty busy with that. But like I said, they're built like a team to win the championship in 2025. Not that they can't in 2024, but they're built to win a championship in 25.
Well, that's music to my ears. I will take it because I think they got plenty going on this year as well. Any final thoughts on defensive end? I guess I would kind of echo the thought that they were trying to get bigger and longer, right? Be more appropriate for a 3-man front, and that was part of the, Nate Matlack was just more of a 4-man front defensive end, right? Kind of a 4-3 defensive end as opposed to what they're running now. So it seems like they've been in a transition period with all of that, and it seems to be going very well. But any final thoughts on defensive end?
We didn't talk a lot about the 2 guys that haven't played yet, and Jordan Allen and Ryan Davis, but I'd be remiss if we didn't mention them because in talking to people and having people talk about them publicly in press conferences, there seems to be just as much excitement about those 2 as there is Chidi. So I don't sleep on those guys either.
Well, and I think Jordan Allen had going into last season as a true freshman. He had I think a hand injury or wrist injury. He had a cast on his hand early in the year. I think that maybe set him back a little bit in his development. And now with the full off season, again, ton of upside there, big time recruiting win that K-State got. And I just thought Ryan Davis from day one, when they won that recruiting battle, guy out of Arizona, I like his body type and I liked his film coming out of high school. And I'm glad that he stuck around and redshirted last year and is back because I think he has a lot of potential as well.
Yeah, the jump he took from junior year to senior year in terms of film really puffed out at me. I remember saying, and one of those superlatives, which I don't get a lot of those right, but I remember saying the guy that no one's really talking about that I think has a chance to be damn good. It was Ryan Davis at the time. Now, he redshirted, didn't play a snap last year, but now hearing some buzz about him kind of maybe reaffirms that notion about him that I had originally.
He was a guy a lot of those old Pac-12 schools tried to hone in on at the last second and steal him from Kansas State right before signing day.
Well, defensive tackle is where we had plenty of concerns, so we're going to address that next. It has gotten better by pulling back into the fold somebody in the recruiting class that had slipped away for a moment in Malcolm Alcorn Crowder. But you want to be looking your best when you're cheering on whoever's playing on the defensive line for the Cats this fall, make sure you get to homefieldapparel.com. They've got all the best K-State gear, 50-plus Wildcat designs there, old school stuff. You want a Big 8 Champs shirt from the 70s for hoops, you got it. You want an old school shooting shirt from basketball in the 70s and 80s, you got it. You want an old Copper Bowl shirt, you got it. If you want to check out the 100-plus other teams and wear a Woo Pig Suey shirt, and
shout out baseball,
participate in a borderline cult like Derek Young, you can do so. If you would like to call the Hogs here, I will let you take it away.
I will not call the Hogs. I'm wearing this for baseball.
Please call the Hogs.
No, I don't even know if I appropriately know how to do that.
I'll give you a choice. You can either call the Hogs, or you can do the little Texas A&M rain dance that they do at midnight yell. You get one of the two.
Well, maybe I'll do it on the next show because I don't know if I can, off the top of my head, know how to do either one. I was like, woo.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. Pig Suey. Yep. Anyway, you can get all of it at homefieldapparel.com. It is the best college gear around. Seriously, everybody is wearing it. You go follow them on social media. They find pictures all the time of celebrities wearing all their Homefield apparel. So we'll even give you 15% off. It's promo code 3MA23. Again, promo code 3MA23, 15% off your first order at homefieldapparel.com. We're back in just a moment.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
Defensive tackle. That was a primary concern for us a couple of weeks ago, hoping to find somebody in the transfer portal, missed out on a big target in the transfer portal. It stayed in the Big 12. And there were concerns. Look, everybody loves Uso. Pretty productive, very good player that's coming back at defensive tackle for K-State. Damian Ilalio is a local kid, Manhattan High, but I mean, I can tell you, a freaking stud when he was in high school, and I thought he would have a chance to make an impact, and he already has in his K-State career, but certainly has a chance to make a jump. But beyond that, you wondered about the depth at defensive tackle. Now, Malcolm Alcorn Crowder was signed out of the junior college ranks to help appease that. He was sought after by Florida. K-State wins the recruiting battle there. Fortunately, then had entered the transfer portal. Seemed like there were some issues in him actually getting to K-State, but has since decided to come back. So there's a candidate to play both inside and out, but somebody who can provide some depth at defensive tackle. So as we sit here right now on May 13th, recording this, how do you feel about the depth and quality depth that K-State has at defensive tackle?
Okay, still not great, just because Malcolm Alcorn Crowder is a bit of I would still call it a question mark. You don't know how great or how good he's going to be right away, right? And he missed all spring ball, so you kind of got to take those things into consideration. Uso's coming off an injury. He wasn't really, available during spring ball, and I wish that he was, because he needs more development. Still hasn't played a ton of football, right? I actually am high on Damian Ilalio. I think he's a guy that could really come on and really grow in this last year. So I think we'll see noticeable improvement from him. And I think Uso was okay, solid. I don't know if he was anything special, with defensive tackle last year, nose guard. And maybe we've been spoiled because we've had so many good defensive tackles kind of come through K-State that were, not really ballyhooed, but really productive, really good players, with the most recent one being Eli Huggins. So I kind of wish they were still chasing one. I'm not sure that they are. Probably a hard thing to sell. And then you also got to take into account as well. I think Malcolm Alcorn Crowder, originally, when he was signed, it was thought that he'd probably play some defensive end too, because he's more of I wouldn't say he's more of but he could play strong side defensive end, right? In a 3-4 or 3-3-5. So I'm not super comfortable, but I'm probably comfortable enough.
I'm more comfortable than I was before Malcolm Alcorn Crowder came into the mix, back into the mix to come back to Kansas State. But Yeah, I mean, when he signed DY, I thought that was another guy where they're trying to get long and defensive end initially, right? With a little bit of versatility that could slide down into the interior and pass rush situations. But, another guy that's 6'6", he's got that length. Now, you don't see a ton of 6'6" defensive tackles or nose tackles, right? Because of leverage, they're taller, get up the guards, the interior, the offensive line can get up underneath them and drive them easier. They get a little high at times, but I think Kansas State is certainly going to rely on him to play some defensive tackle. I think especially in like jet pass rush situations is when he maybe slides down in the interior. But like you, I mean, look, Uso has been banged up each of the first 2 years. Actually, he suffered an injury in the Big 12 championship game when he got bent over backwards a couple of years ago. I think he did return for the Sugar Bowl game against Alabama. I can't exactly recall, but then obviously suffered the injury again last year. And the thing I think with Uso is he was a reserve guy that came in when guys were tired in his first year, right? He came in just for a few handful snaps a game. He looked dominant. Last year was his first year as an adjustment, really being the go-to guy, being the starter, being out on the field for 50, 60% of the snaps or more for Kansas State, and probably played a part, a little bit of an adjustment factor there. And so you hope now going into the third year, a guy that played volleyball in high school, basketball, was pretty raw on the football field, that this third-year adjustment to the Big 12 level, he really pops. So hopefully he comes on, but I think Damian Ilalio played well down the stretch last year. He got significant playing time, and hopefully he continues to make that jump as he's in his junior year.
Do we expect anything, or is it a possibility that like Asher Tomaszewski could give you anything at defensive tackle, redshirt freshman?
Yeah, I wouldn't rule it out. I mean, he actually played last year. He's still redshirted, obviously, but he got into 2 or 3 games, which shows that they're not like out on him. Excuse me. I think they like him, but if there's 3 guys ahead of you, you probably need some things to happen for him to be on the field, and if those things happen, it's probably not a good thing, right? So that's where I am on him. Just bold prediction, and I keep thinking. I haven't said this out loud to anyone, and it kind of just hit me now, and I think there's a non-zero chance of this. Meaning, I wouldn't rule it out. Is that by the end of the season, the best nose guard on this team is Damian Ilalio?
Well, I mean, look, I know some people will scoff at it. I will just say the piece that I can offer here is that, I mean, I did 5-6 years of Manhattan High play-by-play. And I mean, in the Centennial League, saw a lot of, I saw Kai Thomas play. I saw Mike McCoy play, who was like the most dominant guy that I ever saw offensively out there playing. But the most dominant defensive player that I ever saw was Damian Ilalio. I mean, it was crazy. He destroyed people, and it looked like he's undersized, obviously. I mean, that's the knock here. But like, he looked like a legit guy that could play and contribute at the D1 Power 5 level. And so I always thought he was going to be a contributor, and he was a guy that coaches loved, I mean, Joe Schartz, the head coach at MHS, love him. He's a hard ass. And I mean, he loved Damian Ilalio. I mean, that was his kind of guy. So it's sort of the K-State model, right? A guy who's undersized, but surprises, makes the most of his opportunity. And at defensive tackle, like, that's kind of been the history. Like Will Geary, right? Cole, help me remember some of the defensive.
Tank Reese.
Well, even just like Travis Britt. I'm talking like guys that weren't. I feel like Tank Reese may have been pretty highly sized.
Yeah, sorry, I was thinking size. Tank Reese, being
okay. Yeah, fair enough. I was thinking more like the under-heralded.
Yeah.
Trey Deshawn and Eli Huggins.
Trey Deshawn. There you go. Trey Deshawn, Eli Huggins. All these guys kind of fit that same sort of pattern. Will Geary, who wasn't, a huge recruit when they brought him in, and he was multi-time All Big 12 at defensive tackle. So, yeah, I'm just saying there is some precedent there to kind of the path that Damian Ilalio is on.
What was the who was the nose tackle again on the 2012 Big 12 championship game? Wasn't that Latui?
Travis Britt was one of them. He was playing some as a freshman, but yeah, okay. Latui, was he out by 2012?
I think he was on that team, but I maybe I'm wrong. I'd have to.
He was there. You're right. He was second team All Big 12 in 2012.
Yeah, I mean, and that was a guy that was a JUCO guy that wasn't heavily recruited, wasn't a big name. Like Kansas State, honestly, has had a ton of success with under-the-radar defensive tackles that weren't highly recruited. You guys already mentioned it. Deshaun, Britz, Huggins. I mean, you could probably count on one hand the number of Power 5 offers those guys had combined.
Gary, yeah.
Yeah, Gary. I mean, John, when you guys were talking about Elalio there, the first name that popped to mind is Will Gary, because I'm just like a wrestling champ. Elalio, a big-time wrestler, understands leverage, going into his 4th year of college football now. There's no reason Elalio couldn't, have the light come on this year and be a really good player up front for Kansas State. I certainly could see it. He played in 11 games last year, so the adjustment now that he makes going into his 4th year, I certainly could see that. I think they're going to be okay if they're healthy. I think they're fine at defensive tackle. If Uso and Elalio stay healthy, Alcorn Crowder can give them a little bit, and Asher, I'm not. John, impressive job pronouncing his name.
Dude. Yeah, I was on the site, so I looked.
I was on it too, and I still had the pronunciation pulled in front of me, and I didn't trust myself.
I was going to pronounce it Tomaszewski, so it's a good thing that you were on it and did that. One thing I would say, maybe as supporting evidence here with Damian Elalio, both him and Tui said this spring when they were available to the media, is that they thought he admitted, and Tui said they thought he underperformed last year. Like, even what he had last year was an underperformance because he had added 15 pounds and got to 300 and didn't know how to play with it, but now knows how to play with it.
Yeah. Okay. I'll throw this out there too. I was thinking about this, like other guys that I watched, like Wyatt Hubert, who turned into a draft pick and played defensive end. He was at Shawnee Heights. I mean, I watched him in high school football, and like, nothing against Wyatt at all, and obviously he turned into a fabulous college football player. But in terms of their high school film, like Damian Elalio jumped off the page much more than Wyatt Hubert did when he was playing there. If you're looking for another comp,
yeah. But in general, I'm with you. No one touches Mike McCoy.
Mike McCoy was ridiculous. That guy. I mean, I shout out to Mike McCoy, man. Love him, and it's such a bummer that injuries derailed his career because he would have been a dude. He would have been a dude. Long live that Charlotte game where he just destroyed somebody in like 2017.
One of the best high school running backs I've ever seen, like regardless of where I've been, is Mike McCoy. Everyone talks about Kai Thomas, and he does have a sensational highlight film where it looks like I think Deuce Vaughns was similar, where it's like every time he touches the ball, he scores a touchdown. I would take Mike McCoy's high school career over Kai Thomas's.
Yeah, I mean, McCoy will be always one of the greatest what-ifs for me, just because we didn't get a chance to really see what he could do other than that Charlotte game moment. And I think the coaches were really high on his upside, and it's just too bad that we weren't able to see what he could do on the football field. By the way, I had forgotten, Violet Tui, unfortunate. John, did you know he passed away?
What?
So,
no, maybe I did. I didn't realize that.
I heard COVID. This is correct.
It is. I double checked it. He passed away in 2021 to COVID.
Damn. Okay.
At 33 years old. So that's really sad.
And that sucks. Yeah, he came in just for 2011 and 2012 and was really productive in both of those double-digit win seasons.
Yeah, really good player. That 2012 team up front, it didn't have like the sexiest names on paper on that defensive line, but man, were they good. Meshach Williams, Adam Davis, the guy that had that back surgery and didn't know if he'd be able to play again, and then he became a really productive DN, former 4-star recruit, then JUCO. Meshach, a JUCO kid that became a really good player, and then Violet Tui at nose tackle. I mean, they had some guys that were unheralded that really shot.
Meshach was the Big 12 Defensive Lineman of the Year.
Yeah.
2012. And then 2011, they were running out like Jordan Volker was beating RG3. Like he was making the game-winning play against RG3, batting a ball down. Like total walk-on out of nowhere, Jordan Volker. So they were, that was Snyder 2.0 at his finest, just kind of duct tape and baling wire, like whatever you can throw out there to get it done.
Speaking of some of those Kansas running backs, and by the way, Kansas probably doesn't get enough credit for the way that they produce running backs at this point. I said that I would, even despite how good Kai Thomas was in high school, I think we both said we'd take Mike McCoy over him pretty easily without much even thought. I think I would do the same thing with Dylan Edwards. Like I would take Dylan Edwards over Kai Thomas, kind of bringing it back full circle to this upcoming roster. Dylan Edwards in high school was pretty special too.
Yeah. Well, we can watch Kai Thomas at Kent State this year.
I was literally just like, where the hell is Kai Thomas now? And then Kent State
Yeah, but I'm not going to tell you anything. Kai Thomas was really good in high school. Now he was running circles around people, kind of making a fool of him. But and he probably didn't just the one thing that Kai Thomas is kind of lacking. He was elusive, good vision, stuff like that. But I don't know if he was like fast.
He didn't have that top end speed necessarily or burst. But I mean, look, he had a good freshman year at Minnesota, and then things just kind of sidetracked. He went to KU, didn't get a lot of playing time. KU had a good running back room. Yeah, KU had a good running back room. He was kind of blocked there. He didn't get a ton of PT. I think he battled turf toe as well. And
was he there with was it Neil and Herbert?
Not Herbert, but I think it was Highshaw. I think it was Highshaw's coming.
Well, he was there. He was just there last year, wasn't he?
Was last year's? Was he on the team, Nick? 22. Okay.
Yeah.
22. Good Lord.
He was at Kent State last year. Yeah.
Oh, he was at Kent State last year? Man, I didn't even see him on the field when I was watching the flashes.
Him and Jaron Lewis are there together now, right?
Oh, that's right. Jaron Lewis. Where's Keon Mosey at?
Probably graduated, dude.
Miami, Ohio, I think.
Yeah, I think he's at Miami, Ohio.
Okay.
Joe Urban, is he at Coastal Carolina?
I think he went to Coastal.
No, Middle Tennessee State, something like that.
Oh, I think you're right, Middle Tennessee. John, we have a lot of reason to watch the MAC this year, all right? You can watch Miami, Ohio, Kent State.
I still think Joe Urban would have been good if you stayed at K-State.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, we'll have a watch party for Kent State, Miami, Ohio. Hopefully that's a Tuesday night little ball game that we can get on the U. So
wait, hold up. Joe Urban was at UAB and then now is at Middle Tennessee?
Oh, I didn't even
these guys.
My God. Okay. Oh, no, never mind. I'm misreading the bio. It said led team at UAB with 54 rushing yards, but I think they're saying at Middle Tennessee he led the team with 54.
Yeah. I was supposed to say I don't remember stopping between.
I can't keep track of all these guys, man.
It's kind of cool to think about all these guys and where they are now, though. It'll be honest.
Well, it's funny. The Kai Thomas conversation, I was just I remember it being the end of the world when they didn't land Kai Thomas and Turner Corcoran in that 2020 class, I think, in Kansas.
And a lot of those guys have done nothing. Like Turner Corcoran started a lot of games in Nebraska and up in great. Kai Thomas hasn't done much. Named Matlack was okay. Kansas State. Hayden Pauls, I don't think has played at all at Iowa State.
Hayden Pauls. Yeah, that was a crushing blow when he went to Iowa State. Yeah.
Honestly, out
of these local kids, I know he's on the Missouri side, but how those local kids can't they got the best one. They got Felix Anudike Uzama.
Yeah. The Richmond to Iowa, that one hurt, right? I mean, he's tackle.
Yeah, he's a really good offensive tackle. So
who is that?
Mason Richmond.
And they're recruiting his brother, right? McGuire.
Yep.
Is it McGuire? McGuire Richmond to be a linebacker. Yeah, he's in the
Blue Valley kids.
Yeah. I mean, Richmond's probably going to be a draft pick at offensive tackle for Iowa. And then who's the DN that went to Iowa from Lansing? Caden Crawford.
That wasn't that class, but Caden Crawford.
Yeah. I'm just now reminiscing on all the guys we missed on and what they actually have done, and a lot of them haven't done anything.
Crawford was in the class with Jaron Kanek, right? And Jaron Kanek is getting run out of Norman right now. So
it's funny if you and I know sometimes it works out, but the ones that it just seems like the Kansas kids that choose just to go to K-State and kind of ignore the rest end up most of the time having better careers than the one that go elsewhere. Now there's some that go elsewhere and are really freaking good too, right? So just something to keep in mind. I know there's been more since then, but Brayton Smith was really good at Auburn, right?
Well, I was going to ask you, first of all, let's see how Michael Boganowski does at OU, the Junction City talent that is going to be in his first year there. But who would you say over the last, since you've been covering K-State and been covering the state of Kansas, who would you say was the biggest miss that K-State's had on in-state kids that's went on to have the most success?
Yeah, I was trying to think. I think Daniel Jackson's been pretty good at Minnesota.
Yeah.
Receiver.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boy, there just hasn't been a lot. I don't know if Kansas State had much of a chance, but Isaiah Simmons was excellent at Clemson.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was even thinking back to Xavier Kelly didn't do a whole lot at Clemson when he went there.
Wow, there's your recruiting pitch. K-State should just put together a flyer of all the failed kids that leave the state of Kansas. And
there's got to be one of the last couple of years that they missed that ended up being good, right? To really good. I want the 10.
And to be clear, we're talking about guys that like left the state because Devin Neal, obviously a big time talent that went to KU.
There was our producer said there was a D tackle who started at Oklahoma that went to Tennessee.
Oh, Jalen Phillips. Is that from Circle, Kansas? Not Jalen Phillips.
He got drafted. But I thought, didn't he just stay at OU? Maybe there's different guys there. I don't know. Anyway,
there was Marcus Hicks. He went to Oklahoma and did nothing. I think he switched off to line somewhere, just defensive lineman. His teammate was Breece Hall. That's a miss.
Oh, all right. There's a guy.
Breece Hall. That's a huge miss. But see, like both of the misses, Breece Hall and then Devin Neal were at running back, and they overlapped with Deuce Vaughn, who was there at State. So, like, it's hard to really hit them too much for that because they wound up doing really, really well anyway. Which I wish we could go back in time, all the takes then at that point, people freaking out about missing the Kansas kids. And I was like, hey, if they just go to Texas or somewhere else and get a player that's really talented that we don't covet as much because they're not local, like they can be totally fine. And look what happened. You got probably the best of the bunch there in Deuce Vaughn.
Graham Mertz.
Great.
Yeah. Hey, I saw him working out with Avery the other day with Coach Hoover, with Justin Hoover, quarterback guru. So they have a relationship, obviously. I went when we first moved to South Olathe. Vanessa and I, we were dating, or I guess we weren't married yet. I took her to an Olathe South football game because I wanted to see Braden Smith because he was a 5-star recruit.
He wasn't that good, nice.
I was watching him, and I was just like, this guy, overrated. What are we talking about here? And the PA announcer kept giving him credit, like a defensive tackle. Like they made a tackle, and he wasn't within 4 yards of the play, and they announced it as like the tackle was made by Under Armour All-American Braden Smith. I looked at Vanessa. I was like, he wasn't even close to the play. They're just giving him credit for everything. I came away from that. I think I drove home with Vanessa. I was like, yeah, he's not going to cut it at the college level. He's going to Auburn. It's not going to work. And then he went on to be a second-round pick and became I think a Pro Bowler with the Colts. So don't listen to my scouting evaluations.
He was better in college and pro than he was in high school, and not even close. Like some guys are like that. They really, like, coaches can look at a kid like he's going to be really, really good in a couple of years, even if he's not very good right now. And they hit it. Well, a good way to do this is like, who are all the Derby kids that Kent State missed on him? What did they do?
Oh, man, there was one that went on to Oklahoma State at like a corner that I think we all thought was big.
Evan Hedgepeth.
Well, there was another one, John, a cornerback.
Wasn't Hedgepeth a corner?
He might have been too. There was one that was like a track star, and then I think he ended up at Emporia State later. Like,
are you thinking of Jarrell Morrow from Emporia?
That might be it. The Derby.
Few offensive linemen. The one went to Nebraska, hasn't done anything. Alex Kahn. There's a DN they liked that I liked. I didn't like it all. And then by the end of like his senior year, I liked a lot. That's Samuel Osame. That's out of Iowa State right now. I'll be interested in how he does.
Yeah, so we're talking about a loaded 2025 recruiting class that's in the fold. And, maybe some of you guys should consider Kansas State.
And what I will say is I think it's a solid 25 class. I think over time I would dial it back a little bit. Like I was thinking, like, and I know the offers would tend to say different, at least for the top 5 guys, but I still would think I would take that 23 class with Avery and Dillon over this one.
Certainly the early returns are that way. And then Jordan Allen was in that class too, right?
Jordan Allen, Joe Otting.
Has he done it? Yeah, he. I guess he was just a freshman last year, right?
I think he's great. Yeah, he was just a true freshman this past year. When I was talking to our Notre Dame publisher on 3, it would not surprise me if he's a starting center at some point.
Wow. All right. D-Wire, on the topic of loaded Kansas players, you still feeling good about Lincoln Cure, Goodland tight end?
Maybe not. I would still call K-State the leader, but I would say that it's probably a little bit more heated than it was, say, a month ago or 2 months ago.
Well, Colin Klein, we've seen a bunch of pictures of him out at like track meets, and they just visited Texas A&M. Oregon, obviously, is seemingly the biggest concern.
I know other people would disagree. I'm not really thinking Texas A&M here. So, and I get mixed, I'll be honest, I get mixed impressions about where KU is now that they signed his brother.
What year is his brother?
They would play together for 1 year.
Okay. Brom. Why didn't K-State just take his brother as a walk-on? Like,
They wanted to.
But they took the Wolf kid, or
they took him before the kid had entered the portal.
Yeah. Okay.
They would have taken Kira's little brother or older brother, but he picked KU.
Okay. I mean, the Oregon writers think that they're still the favorite for Brom, it seems like.
Yeah, I've said that for months. I think before it was cool. But I would be really, really now. Time could come into play if he's going to wait till all the way to the end of June. Maybe someone steps in front of him in line, but I still think Brown, whatever it is.
Yeah, I probably mispronounced it.
I think Oregon is the overwhelming favorite.
Okay, so how I mean, it's been long assumed, and even a lot of the national guys, like I think Wiltfong, some of those guys jumped in on K-State being the real favorite there for Lincoln Cure. To be clear, you're still thinking that K-State is the favorite there, and how long do you feel like that one's going to go?
I think it's around the same time as Deshaun Brain, like June, July, in that time frame.
Okay, so we're coming up on it.
Yeah, I do. I think we are. But that one there seems to be, I mean, I don't know how to describe it. I would, it's just not as black and white anymore as it was.
Well, so K-State's got his last visit. I think it's June 21st, right? They're the last official visit, and then they'll probably decide soon after. So
that would be my impression.
Yeah.
Got it. I mean, look, you always knew that one was going to be really tough. Like, I know that there was all that talk about, hey, K-State lock, K-State lean, whatever you want to say. But
I might have even said that at one time. And what I am learning now more and more, just recruiting is much, much, much more volatile now than it has ever been. I think more because of transfer portal kind of shifts things for teams, and then that in turn shifts things for high school kids. And I think NIL means things can get really, I don't know what the word is, weird, more dramatic.
Yeah.
There can be a lot more late movements. There can be a lot more substantial shifts in recruitment. So I am like almost reteaching myself how to read the tea leaves in recruitments now. Calling anything a done deal on a lock, you're probably setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah. There's just so many different levers that teams can be pulling here. There's so many more dynamics at play than there used to be with NIL and the portal that naturally that's going to make it just damn near possible.
I think that's probably been an undervalued and an underreported, undershared element in all this and I had to worry about it at the time, and I said this could happen, and I'm probably not for anyone to hear, I don't know, but I think transfer portal is really that element of recruiting at the college football and basketball level has really impacted things at the high school front, and not in favor of the high school athlete.
Oh, well, for sure. Yeah, they're getting screwed on that.
Yeah, they're getting screwed because they're taking less, but they're also getting screwed because of that. And we're probably at the point where it's probably too late now. Some of these kids need to probably consider committing in that January to March timeframe, because then these teams, Kansas State as well, are taking transfers in April, basically over recruiting their current roster with like retro freshmen and sophomores from other schools that would typically go to an incoming true freshman. Now you lost your spot because they just took this young kid from Tulane, from Troy, from what, you know what I mean? So you're getting recruited over by transfers if you're a high school kid. So you need to, especially if you're not like a top 100 kid, you need to consider making your choice sooner now to get your spot, because if you don't, they could take a kid in April and May. That is your spot.
Two things, and we can wrap this up. One, Lincoln Cure will play football at Kansas State. We'll just go ahead and put that out there. And then two, I think one thing that probably
friendly reminder that the last person Cole crystal balled to K-State was Cliff Amori.
Dylan Edwards, thank you. Dylan Edwards on an actual show.
Cliff Amori came after that in the Discord, which, by the way, if you want the proof that what I'm saying is correct, patreon.com/3ma, you can sign up for $5 a month to have access to the Discord where Cole makes inaccurate predictions and
way to sell it.
We talk about everybody's personal lives. It's great. Make sure you get to patreon.com/3ma to hop on there and sign up. Plus, lots of extra audio content that we'll give you as well, which did include, I believe that's where Cole did crystal ball Dylan Edwards to K-State, and he was correct on that. I believe the first time you did it was on a very unhinged live show, patreon.com/3ma if you want access to that. Yeah. Thank you, Cole, for the opportunity to promote.
Yeah, well, and good luck finding the Cliff crystal ball, because I was so 45,000 messages ago. You're not going to be able to find it because there's a lot of activity that is over there. I think the second thing, though, that I was going to mention is I don't know if it's been emphasized enough how impressive it is. As DY was talking about the transfer portal, Kansas State did not lose anyone of note in the spring transfer portal window. And when you look all-encompassing between the winter window and the spring window, Kansas State lost Kobe Savage and Nate Matlack. Those are really the only two guys that I think they fought hard to keep. Will Lee moved on, but again, not a guy that I think they fought hard to keep. I think that was kind of a mutual understanding there. And so Jamon Banks, the only guy that leaves in the spring, right? I mean, that's super impressive and speaks of the culture that Chris Kleiman has, that they really did not lose much as far as key production on this football team.
Kobe Savage kind of getting recruited over at Oregon?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even consider him a big loss, to be honest. I think K-State upgraded. I think Jordan Riley's a better football player.
We'll see. I don't know. I haven't seen enough Jordan Riley playing.
Well, you don't watch enough Ball State like I do, you know.
I mean, you're correct. I don't watch the MAC like you. Yes, you are correct about that. I have not done my MAC.
Chirp.
What'd you say?
Chirp, chirp, Ball State.
Oh, I thought you were saying like I'm talking shit. Like you were telling me to keep chirping. So
no, that's their thing. Chirp, chirp.
DY and Jason Whitlock, the biggest Ball State fans on planet Earth.
And we brought up Kent State. This is not what Kent State says. This is what other people say about Kent State. Can't read, can't write, Kent State.
Nice. Actually, David Letterman too for Ball State. Let me not forget David Letterman. David Letterman, Jason Whitlock, and DY.
And then the last one, I promise, because we do that. And the other schools say about Wright State, which is also in Ohio. Wright State, wrong university.
Hey, by the way, didn't James Gilbert transfer from Ball State?
Yep, chirp, chirp.
Love James Gilbert.
He's also a running back coach now at Pitt State, I believe.
That's right.
Do you guys know, I saw that, man, shout out to Harry Trotter, okay? Because I don't know how many, I was reading a list in the Kansas City Business Journal of the highest earning, like, commercial real estate agents in the entire city. And him and, like, his co-owner guy were like, they were number one. The guy was in college, like, 3 years ago.
Yeah, we got in real estate right when I was leaving Kansas City. We actually lived in the same apartment.
Like a boss, man.
That's wild. Man, Harry, why don't you get on over to catsnil.com, give some of those contributions. Sounds like you're doing well for yourself, so get on over there, support Wildcat NIL, Harry.
It wouldn't surprise me if you already is.
It wouldn't surprise me either.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Send that to Curry, John. Send that, hit him up, Okay. No, I'm sure Curry's aware already.
Okay. Yeah, I will. All right. We veered very far.
We covered a lot of ground.
We sure did. If you want to know about the 2017 Kansas high school landscape, we sure got you covered here today on the pod. So you're welcome for that.
We're old defensive tackles.
Yeah, right. Defensive tackles at K-State over the last 15 years. Raise a glass of Ben Holiday Bottled and Bond Bourbon to that. Thank you to Holiday Distillery. Thank you to Homefield Apparel. Hopefully someday DY will actually call the Hogs for us with the Woo Pig Suey shirt. Thank you to Nick Springer behind the scenes for keeping this thing somewhat on the rails, bringing it to you. For Derek Young and Cole Manbeck, I'm John Kurtz. Thanks for listening to another 3